Welcome to Right versus Left News, your daily briefing on the stories that matter, told from both sides of the aisle. I'm your AI host, Chris, and each day I bring you the most important political and cultural news with perspectives from conservative and progressive voices. No spin, no agenda, just the facts and the opinions that shape our national conversation. Let's dive in. Here's your quick overview. In the past 24 hours, the Supreme Court temporarily restored broader access to the abortion pill mifepristone, and in a separate order, it cleared the way for Louisiana to swiftly redraw its congressional map after last week's Voting Rights Act decision. Overseas, Russia and Ukraine announced dueling ceasefires, Kyiv proposing one beginning tonight, Moscow pushing for a pause around its Victory Day. Back home, voters in Indiana and Ohio head to the polls today, May 5th, to kick off a big month of primaries that will test former President Trump's endorsement power. And a federal judge again blocked the Justice Department from searching electronic devices seized from a Washington Post reporter in a leak case. Before we jump into today's stories, a quick word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT, but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values. Whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at familygpt.chat.
Thanks to our sponsors for supporting Right versus Left News. Now let's get to the headlines. On Monday, May 4th, the Supreme Court temporarily restored broad access to the abortion pill mifepristone, allowing telehealth prescribing, mail delivery, and pharmacy dispensing, while the justices take more time to consider an appeal of a lower court ruling that would have sharply restricted access. The order, signed by Justice Samuel Alito, is expected to last roughly a week while the court weighs next steps. The move pauses a Fifth Circuit decision that had limited mail-order access nationwide. On the right, some frame the stay as a narrow, temporary win for abortion rights advocates, while stressing safety concerns and questioning the FDA's past rule changes. Others note the pause doesn't prejudge the merits, and argue states should be able to enforce in-person requirements. On the left, coverage emphasizes the immediate impact, avoiding confusion for patients and providers, and points to Democrats making abortion access central in the 2026 midterms. Progressives cite years of FDA-reviewed data supporting telehealth and mail access, warning that new limits could upend routine reproductive care. In a separate emergency order Monday evening, the Supreme Court accelerated implementation of last week's ruling that weakened a core part of the Voting Rights Act, effectively clearing the path for Republicans in Louisiana to redraw the state's congressional map before November. The state's Republican governor suspended May primaries to give lawmakers time to pass a new map expected to tilt the delegation further right. On the right, supporters describe the broader redistricting moves as grounded in constitutional principles, with courts curbing race-based line drawing and applying uniform rules quickly to avoid voter confusion while respecting state authority. On the left, critics see a highly partisan redistricting push that could dilute minority voting power and reshape the House map in the GOP's favor. They argue the court is stepping in late and tilting the field ahead of 2026. Abroad, Ukraine and Russia announced competing unilateral ceasefires. Kyiv proposed a pause beginning at midnight tonight, May 5 to 6, while Moscow called for a truce on May 8 and 9 around its Victory Day commemorations. Both sides question the other's sincerity. Kyiv calls for a broader halt, while Moscow ties its pause to the holiday. On the right, commentary tends to be skeptical of short unilateral pauses, seeing them as propaganda or time-buying maneuvers, and urges strong deterrence backed by reliable Western production of munitions. On the left, voices emphasize humanitarian relief, even if brief, and echo Kyiv's call for a more durable ceasefire. They warn symbolic pauses can mask continued strikes, and say real de-escalation requires verifiable commitments and sustained diplomacy. We'll be right back with more of today's news after this brief message.
This episode is brought to you by Family GPT, the AI chat platform actually designed for kids. If your children are curious about ChatGPT, but you're worried about what they might see, Family GPT gives you full parental controls, content filtering, and the ability to align responses with your family's values. Whether Christian, Muslim, Jewish, secular, and many more. Monitor every conversation, set usage limits, and let your kids explore AI safely. No ads, no data selling, complete privacy. Sign up free at FamilyGPT.chat.
Thanks again to our sponsors. Now back to the news. It's primary day in Indiana and Ohio, Tuesday, May 5th, kicking off a month of contests that will shape November's midterms. In Indiana, several Republican state senators who oppose Trump's push for aggressive mid-decade redistricting face challenges backed by the former president. Across Ohio, results will roll in from races for governor and U.S. Senate down to local issues. On the right, May is cast as a major test of Trump's endorsement muscle, with Indiana and Ohio setting the tone for later primaries. Some conservatives say ousting Republicans who resisted map rewrites will strengthen the party heading into November. On the left, analysts argue Trump's redistricting push has sparked backlash, legal fights, and heavy spending without clear gains, creating openings for Democrats, especially in the suburbs. Today's results could show whether GOP infighting is handing Democrats new targets. A federal judge in Virginia on Monday again barred the Justice Department from searching devices seized from Washington Post reporter Hannah Nathanson in a leaked probe, ruling the government's approach risks chilling news gathering and should be narrowed under the Privacy Protection Act. The decision follows months of litigation after the FBI seized phones and computers in January. The government can appeal. On the right, coverage highlights the national security rationale, arguing investigators must aggressively pursue alleged classified leaks that could aid foreign adversaries. Some say a court-run review can balance press freedom with the protection of secrets. On the left, the ruling is seen as a necessary check on executive power. Civil liberties voices warn about growing pressure on journalists and platforms, and note that recent court decisions have pushed back on government overreach. In the last day, the Supreme Court paused abortion pill limits and sped up a Louisiana map redo. Ukraine and Russia floated dueling ceasefires, Indiana and Ohio voters are deciding key primaries, and a judge rebuffed the DOJ's bid to search a reporter's devices. We'll keep watching how each unfolds, and what it all means for November. That's it for today's episode of Right vs. Left News. Remember, understanding both sides isn't about picking a team, it's about being informed. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and join us tomorrow for another balanced look at the day's biggest stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.